How are you, Zali?
Good morning, Tammy. Very good, thank you.
Absolutely a busy week for you. How was it in Parliament this week?
I have to say the vibe on the crossbench was really exciting. We had fantastic speeches from some of our new community independent MPs, and we had really good early signs of collaboration with the government when it came to amending standing orders, but still making sure that we have good debate and consideration in detail stage. So that was very pleasing.
I noticed there was a lot of order going on. Was there more than normal, or was it just, I don't know, we just haven't heard it for a while?
Look, unfortunately, question time, the government has hung on to Dorothy Dix's. I think, it's one thing to complain when you're in opposition. It's another to not want to take advantage of the system once you're in government. So I think for really transformative change to the way Parliament works and question time, we're going to need a minority government so that they really don't have a choice and they have to change these practices. But look, there is a significantly size and a lot of people in the crossbench that are pushing for reform. And I do hope Tony Burke, as Leader of the House, will be open to further changes to the way politics runs.
Floor not ceiling is a narrative regarding Labor's take on the climate bill. Were you happy with what you heard this week so far?
Look, I've had, again, a number of meetings with Chris Bowen, and that's been really encouraging. We've talked with him and with the department around the drafting of the legislation. They have moved, and this legislation tabled already includes amendments that have been proposed by a number of independents. There is still a little bit more to go, and I am still having discussions around further amendments that I hope to be able to move in consideration in detail stage next week. This sends the right signal to business that we are serious about acting on climate change and reducing emissions. We are locking in net zero by 2050, and we are locking in that the government must listen to the Climate Change Authority and report regularly back to Parliament in a very clear way in relation to how we're reducing emissions. So there are good elements to this bill. I would argue it doesn't go far enough. 43% does not respond to the scientific imperative that we need to accelerate our emissions reduction. But I will give credit to Chris Bowen. It's a step in the right direction.
And Zali, one of your first questions was to Tanya Plibersek on if the government will invest in conservation and restoration of the Sydney Harbour Federation Trust sites. Were you happy with her response?
Well, obviously, I would have preferred her to be more specific about the government being committed to funding the restoration and conservation of these iconic sites. We're talking the tunnels and map rooms where the defence of Sydney Harbour was worked out in World War II, Indigenous sites that go back 60,000 years. We're talking really important, iconic areas that matter to all Australians. So I will be continuing having discussions with the Minister around the government's plans to ensure we preserve those sites.
Now, the federal election, it was certainly an interesting one, and there was certainly a shift towards more of the Teal independents like yourself and away from both major parties. How are you seeing it in Parliament, including, many of the people that are new to the floor?
Look, it's very exciting. I'm really enjoying having many more colleagues around me on the crossbench, especially smart professional women. I think we're seeing a lot more diversity and a much better gender equity in the lower house. Some of the speeches have been fantastic, and I'd encourage everyone to go and listen to the speeches of both Labor new members, coalition new members, but in particular some of the community independent speeches have been really inspiring, and I hope it will really help get all those communities feeling that much more engaged with politics.
All right, and we're hearing the word action a lot. Well, I've certainly heard it today with the speech with Anthony Albanese and talking to some people on the invasion of Ukraine and so forth. Are you sensing more action rather than just talk?
Yes, it's interesting. I think politics sometimes gets a little bit stuck when leaders are fearful of taking the necessary steps to address problems. And sometimes they may not be popular and they might need explaining, and you really have to explain why certain things are necessary to be done. So I do welcome that the government is acting on some of the issues that we've had now on the agenda for quite a long time. It is time to take action. Look, It's why I got into politics. I felt like I couldn't be a bystander anymore on a number of issues, and it is nice to see the government more willing to take action, to use the word myself.
Well, certainly a lot of action over in Birmingham at the moment, of course, with the Commonwealth Games, and being a former Olympic champion alpine skier yourself, you know firsthand, well, certainly the amount of physical and mental preparation that goes into the Games. I'm going to ask you a very bizarre question. Would you prefer politics or would you prefer being an Olympian? Is there a favourite?
Sport. Look, I have to say sport was simpler. You put in the hard yards, you train hard and you give it your best on the day. There's a lot more mental games, I think, in politics, and there's a lot more planning. But I have to say a lot of the maybe characteristics that made me succeed in sport have come in very handy in politics. But could I just do a shout out to the Australian team and wish them all the best for all their events in the Commonwealth Games. It is so uplifting, I think, for people to watch Australia do well at international sporting events.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see all those Aussies winning. Thank you so much, Zali Steggall. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.